Hello and welcome to this exclusive edition of Resource PNG. In this edition, we feature a report on the 12th PNG Mining and Petroleum Investments Conference that was held in Sydney, Australia earlier this month. The conference, hailed as an enormous success, showcased PNG's mining and petroleum capacity in the global arena. Now, large mines such as the giants Oktedi, Porgera and Lihir have a lifespan of just under 15 years, but new explorations around the country have boosted PNG's capacity as a major contender on the world stage.
Papua New Guinea rides on the back of the resource sector. It has been the strength of the economy over the last 37 years. Favorable conditions have spared the country from the effects of the global financial crisis. According to research, the resource industry is experiencing an unprecedented period of activity and growth right now. Activity that's reached a level where PNG is now the envy of many mineral-producing nations and has gained the confidence and respect of the international markets. PNG Chamber of Mines and Petroleum reports it's also an exciting and challenging time for the industry players. This success has been guaranteed by the high commodity prices, coupled with efficient management of the mineral sector, a stable government, macroeconomic management, and the introduction in 2003 of an internationally competitive taxation regime for the mineral sector, one that retains the unique characteristics of the PNG tax system, drawn from the experiences of Porgera and Panguna. This includes the government equity backing, which allows the state to elect to take up to 30% equity at the development stage, part of which is usually made available to landowners and host provincial governments.
Projects that we had as of 2000, Oktedi, Porgera, Lihi in production at that time, the major large-scale mines, Tolokuma and Misima, the smaller mines, and a number of possible large mines that were still under exploration. In terms of the actual projects, Oktedi, Porgera, Lihi are still there, Misima is gone. Then we have Ramu, Hidden Valley, Simberi come on stream. And we have a number of other prospective large mines, Frida, Yandra, Wafi.
PNG has developed two major mining projects in the last 2 years. The Ramu Nickel Cobalt project in the Madang province, currently at its commissioning stage, and the Hidden Valley Gold-Silver mine in the Marabe province that commenced production in 2011. The Hidden Valley mine is ramping up to an average annual production rate of 250,000 ounces of gold and 3.6 million ounces of silver.
These are the numbers, mine life, current output, and the reserves. Oktedi, Porgera, and Lihi, 10 to 15 years mine life, significant reserves for Lihi. Porgera getting towards the end of its mine life. Oktedi under renewal at the moment. Then we have the smaller projects. In the pipeline, we have Solwara, Woodlark Island prospect by Kula Gold, Yandra by Marengo, Frida by Extrada, and Golpu by MMJV. For the last three list on that list, significant number of years possible if these projects can come on stream. So a fairly good pipeline in terms of projects that can replace the current output decline.
There has also been considerable capital expansion at three major mines in the last 2 years, including the twin declines at Porgera, now completed, the million-ounce production upgrade at Lihir, and the ongoing technical studies at Oktedi to determine the feasibility of a combined underground open-cut mine to extend mine life from 2015 to around 2025. Activity in the petroleum sector is being spearheaded by the multi-billion Kina LNG project that's already drawn a wider international attention. The Chamber of Mines and Petroleum reports that exploration is at an all-time high and there's very little open exploration ground available. The PNG LNG project is well underway and production is on target for the end of 2014. And if the welcoming environment for investors is maintained, it's likely PNG will see the development of several gas projects in the next 5 years. All these exciting stories were showcased in the 12th PNG Mining and Petroleum Investment Conference in Sydney recently. It is the Chamber's premier biannual conference that showcases mining and petroleum industry to the international finance and investment sectors. To achieve this, the event is convened in Sydney.
On the right-hand side, there's a desk, and they already have an answer.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's okay, that's okay. Hi, how are you?
The conference has become firmly established as a prestigious forum providing comprehensive information about the industry and the major projects, prospects, exploration, and future plans of the industry. The direct participation of the government at the political and bureaucratic levels ensures a full and balanced review of all significant policy issues. This year's conference was themed A Foundation for Growth. With success comes responsibility.
We now go to a short break, but when we return, Prime Minister Peter O'Neill delivers his analysis for the country's political environment and its relation to the resource sector. Welcome back. The government applies traits of the public-private partnership mechanism at almost all levels of development, today more so than ever, and the mining and petroleum sector plays a pivotal role to determine investor confidence in the country. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill enforced the positive characteristics of this approach in his speech at the 12th Mining and Petroleum Investments Conference recently.
It's the first Monday of December 2012, and the Hilton Hotel in Sydney, the state capital of New South Wales, is bustling with activity. Yes, it's that time of the year when the Hilton plays host to the biannual PNG Mining and Petroleum Investment Conference. The cream of the industry players, both existing and aspiring, the country's decision makers and project landowners all converge here for a 3-day seminar that involves extensive information sharing. In total, there are 1,350 registered delegates. That's nearly 200 more than what was recorded in 2010.
Basically, I think the conference has been a bit of a success. Over the last 3 days, there's been quite a number of people attending the conference itself, the seminar, and walking around the booths and generally finding out about more of the industry.
This conference in Sydney is always a great success. From our point of view, we get a good interaction with our clients and potential customers, also our suppliers, but I'm always impressed with the quality of this conference. It's very, very good.
And I guess, well, from what we've received or the comments and the feedback that we have with regard to our booth and our presentations is that we're hoping that there'll be a shift in change And I think it is heading in that direction, and that people are becoming more aware of what mining does, and not just the core mining function, but also other parts that the mining industry does contribute.
Delivering his keynote address, Papua New Guinea Prime Minister Peter O'Neill set the pace by taking this bold statement.
There has never been a better time to invest and participate in the development of Papua New Guinea resource sector.
His first pronouncement was the government's stable and strong political environment, a multi-party coalition led by his People's National Congress Party, including those that were in coalition before the election, and the National Alliance Party led by Grand Chief Sir Michael Sumare.
Our reconciliation and the formation of a multi-party coalition representative of every part of our nation, and a cabinet that is well capable of meeting the demands and challenges of today and tomorrow. This has now given us a strong and very stable political environment. As I said, it will get stronger.
He said major investors want a stable and certain political front, and his government plans to maintain just that. Other areas the government is working towards strengthening are the fight against corruption, growing transparency and accountability, developing the economy through responsible fiscal management guidelines, and meeting the new challenges facing the resource sector through a partnership approach with developers to build on investor confidence and certainty.
A pleasing aspect of our growth this year and in the immediate future is that there will be continued growth in the construction, wholesaling, and retail sectors. Another good indicator is that inflation has moderately reduced down to 4% this year. We will keep a careful watch on that in the coming years as we expect the growth and our government wants to accelerate will be beneficial so that inflation does not get out of control.
PNG's strong reserves and domestic liquidity is high. All these are good indicators, but there are challenges and potential threats. The budget, for instance, is one that's generated debate. The Prime Minister said the budget is a deficit one and has come about through proper guidance and advice.
The budget is a deficit budget, and I make no apology for that. We are borrowing now, certain that the knowledge that in the revenues in the future from these sectors will make repayments manageable. I have noted with approval that many analysts have now endorsed this strategy, and the budget deficit and the overall debt levels are consistent with the advice that we are getting from the World Bank and IMF on what levels this debt is manageable in the current economic environment.
The borrowing to fund the deficit, he said, will be almost entirely financed domestically, one that will not be used to fund non-productive public service spending.
For our existing resource sector investors and other potential investors, these measures will have an immediate and long-term beneficial impact.
But isn't all this too much a demand that needs much emphasis on the part of the government?
Well, all things considered, there is an extraordinary large revenue stream coming through the government coffers over the coming years from the LNG. And the continuation of the mining industry. You've got the extension of Oktedi, for instance, the Porga extension, the upgrade at Lihir. All these things will contribute towards the revenue of the country. Going into a deficit, if that deficit is spent on infrastructure, which is the Prime Minister's emphasis, if it's spent on infrastructure, I think it's money well spent. But it has to make sure that it's actually spent on the infrastructure and that somehow it doesn't get diverted into less useful endeavours.
Nonetheless, the government is optimistic it will deliver. GDP growth this year has been just over 9%. Last year, it was 11.1%. Prime Minister O'Neill said this is strong growth by international standards, making PNG the leading growth nation in the region. It is forecasted next year growth will again be strong, with growth of 17% in the mining sector, partly offset by the slowing down in the construction phase of the multi-billion Kina gas project. Then, growth will peak again, but at a record 20% in 2015, when exports from the LNG sector commenced. Much of the government's prospect and optimism on the budget deficit is mostly based on these projections of the mining and petroleum industry.
After the break, we hear from Mining Minister Byron Chan as he gives an overview of the ministry. Stay with us. Speaking to the participants in Sydney, Mining Minister Byron Chan describes the mining sector as the economic foundation of Papua New Guinea. He says efforts to sustain the sector must be diverted into striking a balance with all stakeholders in the industry.
The mining sector currently stands as the single largest export revenue earner for Papua New Guinea. Mining alone contributed over 50% of the country's export revenue and has been the single largest contributor to the economy for well over 10 years. Addressing the conference in Sydney, Mining Minister Byron Chan gave an overview of the mining sector.
The first part of the 12th PNG Mining and Petroleum Investment Conference theme is a foundation for growth and prosperity. The foundation for growth and prosperity in PNG are: number one, a good mineral policy; number two, an attractive regime; and number three, a vigorous marketing of PNG's mineral potential. The quarterly economic bulletin from the Bank of Papua New Guinea up to 2011 shows some amazing facts that I want to present to you for your appreciation.
In 2011, the export earnings by sectors saw agriculture contribute 23% of the country's total receipts, forestry with 4%, fisheries and marine products 1%, crude oil 15%, copper 19% and gold 37%. Unsurprisingly, the mining sector alone contributed an hefty 37%. That's over 9 billion kina. In total, the mineral sector, inclusive of crude oil, contributed 71%, which is 11.5 billion kina of the export receipts coming into the country in 2011. The remaining 28% was accounted for by the other economic sectors.
In addition, mineral sector payments for crude oil, gold, copper, silver and alluvial gold to the government in the terms of company tax, dividend, withholding tax, and the dividends net for the last 10 years from 2002 to 2011 amounted to over 13.6 billion. This sector continues to be the economic foundation and a stimulant for growth in Papua New Guinea. The second part of this 2012 mining conference investment is success comes with responsibility.
The minister said despite the growth and favorable outlook in the resource sector, the responsibility lies with each and everyone in one's respective roles and functions, either it be a policy role, governance or implementation. The government, he said, has the responsibility first and foremost to its people and to the investors. The developers have that responsibility firstly to its investors and to the government and people of Papua New Guinea. And the people have the responsibility to the government and the developer to ensure a successful outcome.
That responsibility instills the national government's new and emerging challenges for a sustainable mining sector in PNG. It is a challenge for the national government to manage and find a balance between something that is currently good and something that would be an improvement to the current status quo, taking into account emerging trends and practices regionally and internationally. the O'Neill-Dion Policy Directive. The O'Neill government is a government for change. In the mining, it is looking at improving PNG's position for the past 20 years or so, but at the same time, seeking to ensure valued investors are also properly looked after.
Minister Byron was quick to point out one of the major challenges faced by the ministry. The issue, he said, is of mineral ownership. The ministry and department have been addressing this issue within the context of existing policies and legislation. Ultimately, the objective, he said, will be to ensure there's fair and equitable distribution of benefits derived from the country's resources.
There is a call from our citizens to transfer mineral ownership rights to landowners. Landowners include both customary landowners and other persons who hold a valid license of a piece of land in Papua New Guinea. I wish to make it very clear that the national mining law and policy vests the ownership of minerals found on any land or under any water lying over land in PNG in its own people through the independent state of Papua New Guinea. And the laws clearly state that the land may belong to a customary landowner or any other person who holds a valid title of a piece of land in Papua New Guinea. However, any mineral found on that land belongs to every man, woman, and child in PNG collectively through the state.
The challenges for a substantial mining sector involve a whole range of issues for the national government to deal with. The first step being the review of the existing policies and laws that's currently underway. Most changes will be introduced next year. These include changes to the Mining Policy, Mining Act 1992, Mining Safety Act 1997, and the Offshore Mining Policy. The minister also told the conference that his ministry has been working with relevant agencies and stakeholders on the transfer of mining oil and gas powers and functions to the autonomous Bougainville government as well as the Bougainville copper mine. Under current circumstances, both the ABG government and the national government have agreed through the Alatau Memorandum of Understanding of 2008 that the national law of PNG with respect to mining oil and gas will continue to apply in Bougainville until such times the ABG develop and passes its own laws.
I wish to give comfort to the industry that the changes to the mineral policy and the mining legislations are intended to establish a good foundation for growth and prosperity for Papua New Guinea in the years to come. The government is fully aware of the impact of this sector to the PNG economy, and the reviews of the mineral policy and legislations will continuously be done through consultation and awareness with all stakeholders.
When we return, Petroleum Minister William Duma gives an update of the country's petroleum sector. A world-class petroleum industry sees the need for greater cooperation for sustainability. Minister for Petroleum William Duma gives us some insight into the current state of the petroleum sector.
I'd like to start by thanking once again the PNG Chamber of Commerce, Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, for hosting another very important conference on meeting the needs of a world-class petroleum industry as far as my ministry is concerned, and also acknowledge the many very successful similar conferences the Chamber has hosted in the same venue over the years. This conference obviously will contribute to the achievement of a greater understanding of the enormous potential our petroleum and gas resources have, and of course the role all of us can play into turning that potential into reality and substance.
And that was the opening statement by the Petroleum Minister William Duma at the Sydney conference. Yes, all eyes are now on the petroleum sector. To be specific, the much-anticipated multi-billion Kina LNG project. PNG has been successful in attracting a broad cross-section of companies to the petroleum sector. Talisman Energy and its joint venture partners are very active in the southwest of the country and focused on a group of licenses covering large parts of Western Province. ExxonMobil and Oil Search are focused on the fault belt, on which follows a northwest-southeast trend in the central part of the mainland, incorporating the existing oil fields and the Hides, Angore, Juha gas fields. Minister Duma said the petroleum sector has contributed significantly to the economy and has much more to contribute to in the future, considering the gas developments coming on stream and the prospects that lie with it.
The prospects for oil are currently, if I may say, nowhere near as positive. As you all know, oil has a lifespan. Our crude oil production has been dramatically declining, and reserves are being depleted. Our remaining recoverable oil reserves will be completely depleted if no new positive or economically viable discoveries are made in the near future. And this will definitely affect the economy of our country. And in that regard, I can only hope that our very important partners such as Interoil, Talisman New Guinea, Horizon Oil, and Eaglewood Energy develop those resources quickly without further delays within the next couple of years, so we can commercialize those resources. With the combined impact of declining oil production, a rapidly growing population, and the need for stronger and broader economic development, the gas industry is expected to help us meet those challenges.
The gas industry, however, has the capacity to make substantial difference replacing oil revenues. The challenge for the government is to raise people's living standards through the proceeds.
The development of the $18 billion plus PNG LNG project, with the lead role of ExxonMobil, has created a new chapter in the history of both the petroleum sector and the PNG economy. As we all know, it has generated employment opportunities, business opportunities, infrastructure development, raised the country's profile as a gas-producing nation, and secured the country's future prospects, provided we manage those benefits well. I'm proud today to note that the PNG LNG project is approximately 70% complete through the construction phase, and both the government and the project partners are all preparing for the day when we move from the development phase to the production phase.
The gas project is in its last phase of the 4-year construction, and the government has pledged to do its part in ensuring the project remains on schedule, with all hopes on the stability of the current government that will manage a number of project issues. The challenges have impacted the estimated project costs.
As you all know, the project recently announced that the estimated cost has now increased to around 19 or 18 billion US dollars. And the biggest single contribution of that increase is from foreign exchange impact.
Geographical obstacles and bad weather has been major challenges, but Minister Duma said delays from work stoppages are an area of government focus. Its focus is to work with the operator to immediately implement initiatives such as permanent government presence in the field to address legitimate landowner issues. The minister also announced the application for a petroleum development license for a new gas project, the Stanley Gas project located in the Western Province that will be developed by a joint venture led by Horizon Oil.
This project, I'm told, intends to begin as a condensate recovery scheme with gas sales into the local market. Following Stanley, Horizon Oil and its partners intend to expand condensate production by developing the Elovala and Ketu condensate fields, which they successfully appraised over the last year. I then expect that there will be sufficient developed gas resources aggregated with additional gas resources in the licenses that are being held by various companies in Western Province, particularly those held by a Talisman Energy-led group, to underwrite a possible third LNG project.
It is intended for the benefits of these projects to be widespread, that will include substantial capital investment and development in Western Province, condensate production to be sold to Interoil's Napa Napa refinery, displacing imported refinery feedstock, and realization of the government's objective to enable gas-fired electrification of Western Province. Meanwhile, investment banks and project investors made positive comments, reaffirming the stability in government from their observations, ideal for investment. A significant number of strong, positive financial investment comments were presented.
Yeah, I think this conference has been very good. It has given us a lot of exposure to the mining and petroleum industry, and we've had a lot of traffic pass by our booth, and we're able to capture many leads. It's also been very good to catch up with our current clients and touch base with them and have a coffee with them and lunch. And also the cocktails and dinners have given us the opportunity to have a relaxing time with our clients and prospective clients in our target market, which is mining and petroleum. So we're very happy, and we have a lot of people to follow up with, and we think we can generate a lot of business out of this conference. So we're quite pleased.
Publicity, sake, we achieved a lot. A lot of people that came around weren't really sure about the Wafi Goku project, which is like, the next biggest mine in Papua New Guinea. And so we had that opportunity to talk with them and, explain about some of the, aspects of the project and how we...
I mean, basically it's there's not that many countries out there. I mean, that can provide what PNG can provide. I mean, the resources, there's very limited options. So PNG's got the space, they've got the area to develop. They're in a key location, so feeding like central to Australasia, so feeding into Australia, but also feeding into China and into Southeast Asia, Far East Asia. So it's a perfect point. I mean, the shipping lanes will let you develop more. The more businesses going through there, or the more cargo movements that are going through there, the more commercial movements which will happen, international movements. So it'll speak for a lot more than just the return to PNG. It'll actually change tourism. A lot of people coming there, more spending. So the more activity is obviously then just going to generate and generate and generate. It just starts the ball rolling.
The Mining and Petroleum Investment Conference comes with an exhibition, a one-stop information center for existing investors. This year attracted 50 exhibitors. All eyes are now on the government, project developers and investors.
We interviewed Dr. Ila Temu, the president of the Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, with regards to the conference. That and more when we return. Welcome back. Responsibility and good governance were some of the key issues highlighted at the 12th PNG Mining and Petroleum Investments Conference. And now we speak with the president of the Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, Dr. Ila Temu, as he gives us his observation of the successful event.
I have with me the president of the PNG Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, Dr. Ila Temu. Dr. Temu, thank you for being with us today. You're here for the conference, the Mining and Petroleum Conference. Can you tell us about the concept behind it and what you hope to achieve?
Well, this is the 12th time that we are having the investment conference in Sydney. This year, there is a record attendance. I think the figure is about 1,350.
Goodness.
Which is, pretty large by any standard. And I understand Hilton, when it does conferences, it doesn't achieve that number. So it's a big number, big conference by any standard. The theme for this year is a foundation for growth and prosperity, and we have a sub-theme with that which says with success comes responsibility. And I guess it reflects the fact that, over the last 20 years, the resources sector has made a significant contribution to the country, both in terms of, the revenues, exports, jobs, community benefits especially. So significant contribution. And I guess the view is, with a number of new opportunities that are now coming up, especially LNG, and then we have a number of other, Wafi, Golpu by Newcrest in Morobe. There's Frida in West Sepik province, and then there is expansion of Lihi, for example. So a lot of this is, in our view, setting the foundation for prosperity and growth.
Right.
But within that context, I guess the message that we'd like to bring out of the conference is, yes, the foundation is set. We have a lot of these opportunities that are coming through, but these opportunities cannot be realized if people that are involved in the process, the companies, the government, the departmental heads, the landowners, if we don't take our share of the responsibility to make sure that these projects come good, then we won't tap the benefits that could come out of this opportunity. So I think that's the key message. And in this morning's keynote address by the Prime Minister, he gave assurance that the resources sector is a significant player, and the government's responsibility is to make sure that there is a playing field that is fair both to the companies as well as the country in terms of the distribution of benefits. So I think it's a pretty good message, and given the interest that we have, especially in terms of the attendance, the primary objective is to try and sell the country, tell the story about what is going on in PNG. It's a good story to tell. There is prospectivity, the laws and regulations are stable, there is relative political stability, the regulations have been applied fairly. So in terms of the environment, it's a pretty good environment, and I guess we are saying this is the environment within which resource extraction occurs in this country, and it works. And we have attracted the big players in. Barrick, ExxonMobil, Oil Search has been there a long time. Newcrest has also just come in. So significant players within the region are in country and are trying to develop these resources in country. So there must be responsibility so that the country can generate, or these projects can come to fruition and the benefits are generated.
So reassurance to the current stakeholders and also the current key players in the industry, and also good messages to potential investors, I guess.
Yes, no, I was quite happy with the message that came out of from the PM's address. He basically said, what is needed by private sector to invest in this country, what are the conditions, and one of the key ones is political stability. So he made reference to the fact that there is now a new legislation that is going to be passed that would allow the extension of the grace period from 18 to 30 months.
Yes.
That creates additional stability as well. Also, he mentioned about the review of the petroleum and mining tax legislation, and gave assurance that this is not targeted at trying to just make a grab at who takes what. It's more trying to do a review so that all parties, that all stakeholders that are involved in the industry have a fair share of return in terms of the effort and investment that they make. So those are reassuring things. I mean, he also touched on corruption and governance, good governance. That's a key issue, especially in the resources sector, where a significant amount of benefit is being generated by the resource projects. But is it showing on the ground? Maybe the answer is no, because the ability to manage those resources and make sure that they generate the benefit, that's probably lacking. There are landowners who are not, very transparent in the management of the benefits. They get royalties, for example, but it doesn't go to the rest of the clans or families. There are grants that are paid, whether they use those for the purpose for which those grants are being paid. So a fair bit of improvement, I think, is needed to make sure that the benefit that's been generated by this resource development actually makes a difference to the lives of ordinary Papua New Guineans. I think that's the key challenge for the industry and for the sector. And it looks like the government effort to address corruption, for example, on the ground, would be a key issue in trying to improve that process.
We'll have more after this short break. We are speaking with the President of the Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, Dr. Ila Temu, on the recently held 12th Mining and Petroleum Investment Conference in Sydney, Australia. Here's some more of that interview.
Is there any representation of landowners at this conference?
Yes, there is a fair bit of representation. I think the figure that I gave this morning was about 55% of the delegates are Papua New Guineans, and probably a good number, maybe half, would be landowners. We have public servants that have come down, a number of department heads as well. A lot of the landowner companies, they have scheduled their board meetings during this conference in Sydney as well. So a lot of them have come down with their full boards to do their board meetings as well as attend the conference, and it provides a good exposure for a lot of the landowners, because it's good that they can see the interest that has been displayed by potential investors and the promotion by the chamber to try and sell the country as a investment destination, especially for the resources sector.
And perhaps indicate to them what the chamber is doing to support them and what their concerns might be.
Well, I mean, that's this morning's session, for example. I think the message is clear that landowners are an important stakeholder in the whole process, and it's quite unique. There are not many countries in the world where resource development projects, you actually have very active participation by landowners themselves, and that's quite a unique thing, and you don't see it anywhere else in the world. And it's a good thing for PNG, because in our environment, in our culture, landowners are the ones who sit on the ground. They live there, that's their livelihood. So if you are developing a project in their backyard, you need to involve them in the decision-making process, and they need to see that they are party to the development of that resource. So it is a key part of the whole development of resources in our country. And I think the fact that it's recognized in regulation, it's recognized as government policy in terms of taking up equity or providing landowner contracts, for example. Those are the structures within which landowners come in. So it's a fairly formal process, and it allows for participation by landowners. But I mean, if you had the presentations this morning, there is also a significant level of benefit that's going out in addition to all the taxes, all the contracts that have been put in place. There is additional benefit that's going out to communities, health, education, infrastructure, for example. So significant benefit especially for the communities.
Certainly. What's the Chamber's perspective on resource ownership?
Well, the current arrangement, in our view, has provided the framework for development of resources in the country. Under the current arrangement and under our constitution and our laws, the resources in the ground are owned by the state. The provision for that is provided in the constitution. In my view, our forefathers did the right thing by making sure that that is provided for, because the resources are not known until someone comes in and finds it. So nobody really knows where the resources are until somebody spends the money. The fact that it's provided for in law and in the constitution, it means that the resources can be used, and the benefits of that resource development must be provided to all Papua New Guineans. It's not just the landowners themselves. So I think that's under our constitution and under our culture, that probably sits very well, because, you know, if resources were privately owned, the benefits of those resources are also privately owned. So there is no ability of the government, except through taxes, for example, to claim, you know, equity or shareholding in these projects. So in my view, in the Chamber's view, ownership of resources by the state has worked well for PNG. If we try to shift ownership to landowners, I think we will have problems in terms of the ability of government to make sure that the benefits of resource development are spread much more widely. The provision, I think, in the Constitution, you know, as provided for by our forefathers, I think that's a visionary provision that allows for the development of the resource and ownership of the resource by the state, and then the distribution of the benefit of that resource to all Papua New Guineans. We all have the right to the ownership of that resource. When we say we all, I think it also means not only current generations, but future generations as well. So in terms of the development of resources, my own personal conviction is, if we develop the resources now, we must use the benefit flow of these resources now to create additional asset that can then generate future benefit for future Papua New Guineans, because they also have rights to the ownership of resources now.
That's right.
If you change ownership to landowners, I think the opportunity to do that is very limited, because once the current landowners get hold of the benefit, there is no way they will invest for the future of future landowners. So I think that's a very important distinction that needs to be made in this whole debate, that according to our constitution, resources are owned by everybody. Who is the state? The state is you and me, the Prime Minister, all the landowners. We are all the owners of the resource. So in terms of developing the resource, we have a direct benefit to the benefit flow of that resource. So both in terms of the Chamber perspective and in my own personal view and experience, you know, globally, I think the provision that we have in terms of state ownership of resources is a good one, and there is no need to change that now. And I think the Prime Minister's statement this morning has given some assurance that you know, these things are not likely to be changed in the short to medium term.
Thank you for your time today, Dr. Temu.
Pleasure.
Dr. Ila Temu, the President of the PNG Chamber of Mines and Petroleum.
And that has been our exclusive edition on the 12th Mining and Petroleum Investments Conference. Just a reminder that in the coming weeks, we will be replaying the best of 2012. On behalf of the Resource PNG team and our guys in the studio, we'd like to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. Do enjoy your time with family and friends and keep safe. See you next year.